Start recording. Okay, there we go. Add a page. So your test on Unit 1 is going to be on Thursday, October the 3rd. So that's next Thursday, okay? We will be finishing off the unit today, a little bit tomorrow maybe, okay? So tests are worth like 75%-ish of your grade. Now, there are no retests. Retests? Retests. If you get below proficient, you can come in and do corrections with me. Okay? That may or may not bring you up to proficient, but it will help you to understand what you have gotten wrong. Yes? Yes.
I just have a question in the chat.
Yes.
When it said, consider the picture, observation, inference,
Yes.
it said there are 3 rocks in the pond.
Yeah.
How can inference if there's 3 rocks in the pond?
That one is tricky. I won't give you one like that on the test because there might be rocks under the water.
Of course.
Now, I have to tell you guys, I am old-fashioned. I don't know how to do this proficiency scale nonsense. It makes no sense to me. You guys are going to be having, be having percentages next year. So what I do is I take my percentages and I convert them into the proficiency scale because that's what's going to come up on your report card. Yes? So what I do is I'm going to take your grade, and because last year, I have to be honest, I really didn't mark their labs because I ran out of time because I was so busy with other things. There were many, many things happening in my life last year. So, but for you guys, what I've been doing with your labs is I've been putting commentary on them, but to save time, I've just been giving you a completion mark rather than trying to judge, oh, this is a 9 out of 10, or this is a 6 out of 10, or this is proficient, or this is whatever. Yes? So, because you're sort of getting like those marks for free, almost like you complete it, it can be good, it can be bad, it can be ugly, but if you complete it, you've got a 10 out of 10. So in order to get proficient, this year I'm going to set the bar at an 80% overall grade. Last year it was 75, but they did not have the labs in there. They weren't getting like 100% on the labs, okay? So that's proficient, all right? In order to get extending, you would need to be, because extending is supposed to be like above and beyond. I don't happen to necessarily agree with this, but that's what the government says. Yes? Because I'm like, what do you have to aim for, really, if you're like, all I need is 80%, then you can just sit there and be like, I just got 80% and I'm proficient. It's the same as if I got like 93% and I'm proficient. So extending, I'm going to say probably 95%. Okay. Plus, you need to have at least tried a decent portion of the enriched material. Yeah? So, you know, the kids who got who got extending in my class last year, a lot of them this year are either taking the grade 10 science enriched, or they took science 10 like over the summer and are taking, some of them are in my Chem 11 enriched class this year. Okay, so that's what extending is. So if you're not getting extending, don't think, oh my gosh, I'm only proficient. Just think, I might be really good at science, but I'm just not doing all that extra stuff. Yes? Developing is going to be like 70%. Okay?
What if you're between 70 and 80%?
Then you're developing. So like proficient, the bar is 80. You got to be over 80. Extending, you got to be 95 or above. Developing, you're 70% to 80%. Does that make sense?
And if you're under 70%,
And if you're under 70%, you are emerging, and that is okay. Like, I want you guys to understand that having emerging is not like the end of the earth. Yes? Like, it's all right, especially if you've got something else, going on in your life or whatever, right? But most of the time, the only people who really ended up with emerging after we did corrections to the tests, the only people who ended up with emerging were people who did not attend class regularly, did not hand in labs, did not complete their homework, did not attend, did not, you know what I mean? Like, they just didn't, for the most part, they didn't care, okay? Because most people can get from emerging to developing, right, with a little bit of, support. Yeah? So it's all good. Yes? And developing is a perfectly good mark because you're still getting 70%. You know what that's going to be if you are in grade 10? That's going to be a C+. Yes? Not just a C, but a C+. Yes. All right? And if you're like really upset about it or whatever, what I would like you to also remember is that who looks at your grade 9 marks?
Your parents.
You look at them and your parents look at them. Does anybody else look at them? No. Grade 10 is when universities and post-secondary start looking at your grades. So grade 9 is a really good time to be like, I'm going to do some growth this year, and I'm going to learn how to study, and I'm going to learn how to do well, and make sure I hand everything in. Oh my gosh, when I was in grade 8, I was like in grade 7. Obviously, I was like good at science because otherwise I wouldn't have gone and become a science teacher, right? So science was a good subject for me. I got my first interim report card. They don't do those anymore, but I got an interim report card, and I had a C in grade 8, first year of high school. And you know what I had done? I had not handed in a lab, so I got a 0 on it. So I learned very quickly that I needed to hand in my lab. I'm like, oh, this needs to happen, right? So if you did a quiz and you're like, whoa, like I did not do as well as I wanted to on that quiz, you can think, did I really study for that quiz? And chances are probably not as much as you needed to. So you can have that same light bulb moment where you're like, oh, I didn't study as much as I need to. When I'm studying for my test, I need to put in some effort, right? This is a long weekend. I know your test is not until Thursday, but is it a good idea to leave it till Tuesday and Wednesday to study? No, you got your long weekend. You want to spend some time, maybe each day, just do like, you don't have to do like a big like 2-hour block of study. Do a couple Pomodoros on Saturday, right? Do a couple Pomodoros on Sunday and a couple Pomodoros on Monday. Some things I'm going to give you to help study for your test are, I will give you copies of the old quizzes. Okay, so if you want to redo them, you can do that. So you'll get copies of the old quizzes. Yes. If there is anything in your workbook where you're like, I didn't do these pages, okay, then you could say, do those pages, right? Because for the last quiz, there was some stuff I said was optional, right? And you could look through there and you could be like, oh, I didn't do page 78. Maybe I'll now do page 78, okay? And then next week, unless you requested ahead of time, I have a multiple choice review package that has like 50 questions on it that you can use to practice, and we'll do that either Tuesday or Wednesday, depending on what you guys want. Okay? So I think maybe we'll do it on Tuesday so that you can sort of figure out what you don't know, and then you can study a little bit more on Wednesday. Yeah? Yes.
What do we do if we didn't get the homework yesterday?
If you didn't get the homework yesterday, you mean you didn't understand it or you did not get it? You did not receive it. Yes, I will get that for you. Is there anyone else who needs one of these like little scatter plot graphing checklists? Yes. There we go. There we go. Okay. And we need one over there? Yeah. Now, just so you know, literally, this is exactly what I will give you on your, I won't give this to you on your test, but this is how I will be marking the graphing question on your test. I will literally use this. So you can say to yourself, do I have a title? Yes? Do I have the correct choice of axis? Do I have, and you can go all the way through the list. So every time you do a practice graph, you can go through your list and check off if you've done these things. Yes? Now, on your test, you have an option for the low cost of 1 mark. I can give you this checklist. Yes? Does that make sense? So if you're like, I am never going to remember all these things, you can buy the checklist for 1 mark. Does that make sense? So it like costs you a little bit. So if you know it without having to look at it, that's great, but you can buy it for 1 mark. Yes? How many questions are on the test? There's some multiple choice, somewhere around maybe 17, 18. Okay, and then there is some written response stuff with a graph. Okay? And what I will do with the test is, for most of you, you'll be easily able to finish it within the time frame. If you need extra time and you aren't able to finish it in class, that's fine. You can come in during flex the next day and finish up, okay? Because I don't want anyone to feel rushed, you know? Like, some people just take more time. They need to process things more and whatever. Is good? Okay? So you'll get copies of old quizzes. You'll get a review. All right. And I will give you these ones before the weekend so that you have them and it's all good. Now, before I put you back in your POGO groups to finish that off, I wanted to talk about the last thing on this. Where is it? Rules for good graph making. And we're going to be on page 109. Page 109. What did he ask you? I mean, I want to think about it. So, we wanted to go now.
I will walk over now.
So this is just one little last thing about scatter plots that goes along with your little scatter plot checklist. The corner of your graph. Nick, would you like to go do this down in TLC? You're good here? Okay, can you take out your book then? Yeah. Okay, so you do not have to put the corner of your graph. So the corner of your graph does not have to be 0, 0. Sometimes it should, other times it shouldn't. And you have to use common sense to decide, should I make the corner of my graph at 0, 0? And we'll talk about how you use your common sense to do that. Okay? If none of your data points are anywhere near 0, you don't have to have a 0 on your graph. Okay, in science, you don't have to have a 0 on your graph. So if all your data is above 100, why would you have 0? You'll just have empty space. Does that make sense? Okay, so what it would look like is if I had a bunch of data and all my Y values were like, 45 or above, and all my X values were 150 or above, if I have a 0 and a 0, I have all this empty space. Yes? And it makes it so my graph is all squished up. My graph is squished. And we do not want a squished graph. We want a spread out graph as much as possible. So if I look at this, I could say, oh, I could start my graph. Instead, my first X value could be 150. Yeah? Yeah. And my first Y value, I'd probably choose a nice number, not 43, but I could choose to start it at 40. Yeah? And that would spread the data out much, much better. And what that would look like if we did spread it out is down here. So you see, actually, this one started at 140. I guess I decided to start it. I could have started at 150. Doesn't really matter. But you can see we're starting at 140 and 40. And now this graph can take up all that space. It can take up the entire area of the graph. Is good? Okay? Okay. Now, sometimes, you remember I said you have to use your common sense? Sometimes you will have a point that is 0, 0. And you might not even be given that data point. You'd be like, why would you not give me a data point if I have a 0, 0 data point? Well, let's say I was taking some water and I was measuring the volume of the water, and then I measured the mass of the water. Does it make any sense for me to actually take a sample of 0 water and then weigh, like 0 milliliters of water and then weigh it? Does that make sense? Here's 0 milliliters of water. Let's find its mass. You don't need to do that because you know if there's no water, it has no mass. Yeah, absolutely. So you might not be given that 0, 0 point, but if you have something where you know for sure, if volume of water is 0, mass will be 0. Mass has to be 0. And if that's the case, you know that point for sure. There is no measuring error. Yeah? Are you wondering? Maybe there's some uncertainty in that. Maybe if I have 0 milliliters, it weighs 1 gram. Is there any uncertainty in our 0, 0 point?
0, 0.
Because 0 is 0. So what you would need to do is you would need to say, I know that this point right here is accurate. So if I'm drawing my best fit line, my best fit line has to go through 0, 0, because I know for 100% sure that that data is correct. Now, this is a fairly abstract concept. So if you're not getting it, if you're like, I don't get it, and you miss it, it's only like a half a mark. You know what I mean? Like, you're not going to fail the test if you don't understand this. But if you have data that has to go through 0, 0, then your best fit line must go through 0, 0, because that is always going to be a completely 100% sure point. Is good? Okay. All right, here we have, and here I have, so here's all our data, right? I've got students measuring the mass and the volume, and there's a little bit of experimental error in there, and so I get a best fit line like that. And then we have this point here labeled student needs help, and I'd like you to see if you can remember what we call that point.
I just guess.
What's it called? Yes? It is an outlier because it lies outside of the rest of the data. Whoops. Outlier lies outside the rest of the data. All the rest of the data is making a nice line. It's making a nice uphill there, and that one just kind of looks like it went crazy. So maybe someone read a 10 when they should have read a 20 or something like that. You know what I mean? Okay. Ooh, while we're at it, I was going to ask, 3 people have asked me for to reset their password for Teams. Does anyone else need that? Because a lot of the stuff you'll want for like review and whatever, you need one. Okay, so I've got Braden and Max and Micah. Is there anyone else who needs a reset, Paula? I'm going to try and do that after school today for all of you. And if I don't succeed, I'll go ask Mr. H because he'll know how to do it for sure. Okay, anyone else? Everyone else has it? Okay, good stuff. Thank you. So that should, in theory, happen for you after school today. Fingers crossed. Okay. So maybe around 4 o'clock, you could try and see if you can log on. All right. So here is a question for you. What's that? A woodchuck would chuck as much as he could if a woodchuck could chuck wood. All right. Should this trend line, remember trend line is another word for best fit line. Oh, look, it's the goo goo eyes again. These two are making goo goo eyes at each other.
What's that?
Okay, should the trend line for this graph pass through 0, 0? So we need to think, what are we looking at? We're saying here is the years of experience that someone has at their job, and here is their salary. Is it true that at 0 years experience, your salary would be 0?
No.
Does that seem likely? No. So the answer is no. So in this case, you don't want your line to pass through 0, 0. So grab yourself a ruler. Okay, you'll probably need one later today anyway. All right. I can pass you one with your hair. Yeah. Oh, I'll just throw that on the ground for you. Here you go. No worries.
We can.
Okay, and then you know.
Yeah.
Whatever. Not at all. We're good? Okay. So please draw yourself a trend line. And remember, if you don't know where your trend line goes, you can draw a blobby shape. And then you cut it in half. And then you erase your blobby shape. Or you can just stick your ruler down and hope for the best. Because really, if you do a good job looking, you should be okay. The next thing you need to do is you need to give this graph a title. So once you have your trend line, give this graph a title. What? Title? Sir Graphus III. Lord Graphus of Kent. Oh. Okay, remind me, how do we write a title for a graph? What words do we need? We need something and something. We need, yes, we need the dependent versus the independent. And dependent goes on which axis? Dependent is on the y-axis. And the y-axis goes left to right or up and down? Up and down. And the independent goes on the x-axis. And it goes left to right. Okay, so dependent versus independent, so it should read salary. And I did not leave myself enough room at the top, so I'm going to write it at the top corner of my graph. Salary versus years of experience. And if you have trouble remembering which one comes first, remember, write the one that comes first, and the one that comes second on the page, second. Try the next one. Should this trend line pass through 0, 0? So take a look at what's here and what's here and decide, should it go through 0, 0? And when you decide, tell your partner. What did you guys decide? It should not pass through the zeros. Why not? Okay, so the number of times the die is rolled. So I roll the die, but I haven't rolled it yet because I've rolled it 0 times. Yes? If I roll it 0 times, how many 6s will I get? 0. So should I have a 0, 0? Yes. That means that I want my trend line to pass through that. So I need to make sure my ruler goes on that dot. And what I will do, and I'll show you up here because I can't show you the ruler on that thing. Okay, I'll say, okay, I must go through that point, and I will make sure that my ruler hinges on that point because I need it to touch there, and I'll say, is that a good line? No, because all my points are above it. Is that a good line? No, all my points are below it. Is that a good line? Probably that's the best, so I would stick my ruler there. I'm not want it's hard to draw on this thing. I'm too short. Anyway, I'll draw it on here because then I can reach it because I'm too short to draw on the board. There we go. And again, you can draw your blobby shape if you want to. Blobby shape, blobby shape, blobby shape, blobby shape. And you can divide that blobby shape in half, but make sure that it passes through 0, 0. And I would say that's maybe about there. Oh, I didn't draw it. It just did not work. Okay, let's try that again. There we go. And then erase your blobby shape. Does anyone notice anything interesting on this graph that we could take note of? Kirat, we have an outlier. Yes. Did you guys see it? Okay, that right there is our outlier. It lies outside of the normal range of the data. Okay. And now you're going to write a title for this graph. So give this graph a title. What should come first in our title? Yeah. The number of 6s, yes? Number of 6s versus, yep, number of times the die is rolled. Okay, titles sometimes can be long, you know, it's okay, yes? Okay? So if you didn't get this little sheet last time and you have not yet checked your page 111 with the graphing checklist, you can do that. Otherwise, what I would like you to do is I would like you to do this next one and also check it with, actually do these next 2 pages. And then once you are done, those 2 pages, you can go and finish the POGL. Actually, should we finish the POGL first and then do this?
Yeah.
Yes. Finish the POGL. And then do pages 112, 113.
And 111.
If you've not already done it.
There one?
We were supposed to have done 111. Okay? 112 to 113 and 111 if you've not already done it. Yep. But after, oh yeah, your group has finished the POGL.
Do you buckle the dude?
Okay, so the POGL, I think we're not going to worry about it too much for you. What you can do is you can just join any group you want to for now, and you can just kind of join in and see what they're up to. Okay? Yeah. Okay, so folks, if you could get into your flow groups again, I know one group is finished. Oh. Whoa.
What are you doing? Is it?
Can I have a tiny checklist?
Yes.
I have 111.
Oh, good. Thank you. Let me check that off for you.
Yeah, and wait, how much did you like increase my quiz?
3 marks, which is about 10%. Okay?
Wait, so how much is my score?
So your score is now 16. Okay, which is a significant increase. Okay? And now you know what you need to study. You're going to do better on the test, and that'll bring your mark up even more, right? Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, just one. You guys know. But yeah, only if you actually. What page are you and Lucas, there we go.
Can you also mark me for this?
Yes, Micah, thank you so. Oh, I already have you.
Oh, okay.
You did it
Anything
yesterday.
else I have to do?
Let me just double check for you, Micah. Micah, page 72.
Here, I did it.
Excellent. All right, thank you.
And that's it?
That's it.
Okay.
Yep.
Cool.
Okay. How do you?
I look at you.
Okay, so the test, and we'll have to do this on Monday.
Monday, there's no school.
Oh, no, Tuesday. Okay, so.
Is the time that really high?
That's what it's so.
Why you say you have to
You Ryan.
Oh, yeah,
Said I know you. I know you.
I did you say you get there.
Okay?
Letter.
This is our vocabulary part 2. There will be a quiz on Monday, not Monday, Tuesday. Okay? Yeah. Okay, this is vocab part 2. On Tuesday. Okay? And so please just get you ready for that. Everything. Everything. So there will be measurements on it. What you'll be trying to be here. They're long. But there's pictures. Right, so, you know. Everyone's like working on that. And I said that.
It's like, I don't know about this.
Okay, so when you get into the going over there, you get things. Gaps. I don't think it was the same.
It is also pretty.
Well, because look, I and they don't need to report letter grades, but they also report the same. So, like, if you're applying to say, you know, you or whatever, or but a lot of it is fine. It's a positive part.
What?
Yo.
I'm not feeling them.
Huh? Okay, what do you guys working? You teach our class. Yo, good game, bud. Okay, so you guys maybe try this.
What's homework? Don't.
I want you to do.
Okay,
No.
wait. I already did homework. What's the future like? You're from here.
Yeah, I think the SIBO thing. Yes.
Give it, boy.
It's on the left.
So not here. No, walking. Give it on. On G.
I swear I'm fine, like, that's for you. Well, it's gonna help you study for your. Oh, it's one. No, say, wow. Yeah, like, okay. That will be yes.
So loud. Oh, bro, you said it at any time.
I get it. Oh, that's really I'm going, I swear. Everyone? But it's on there.
That's still bad.
Hey, you. I see you. But see, no, you got me. I guess. Yeah, it's so fun. You have to know like your study style, right? Like you have like studying with other kids, like I get distracted. But I need to play with the games. Yeah. I don't know what
Good song. It's a good song. I don't know.
like I'm able to go warm. I told it.
Already bring it.
You know, we have to sit on.
What?
Now we're gonna What's your, on my money though, I'm 5'9". Like, oh my God.
Yo, what the hell is he doing? What's the hell? Watch me some stuff again. But song, you know. What? That's not worth it. Oh, what's in there? Oh, boy. Oh, I got you.
My brain.
No, you know what? Yo, chill. He's wrong my Jason. He's wrong my Jason. He's wrong my Jason. Jeremy, great. Cheer ball. Jeremy Fragrance. Jeremy
It's the one like the choice.
Sorry, coaching.
Oh, Trevor. It's like
She's better. No, she's
Oh, what is that? What is
Like, the angel.
Oh, that
It's worse. Yeah, it's way worse. I'd rather win. So, you guys getting okay, I finished. So fast, like, just like had a lot of like,
I know. Well, I folded them for you because this is the first time you're seeing my long ones for me. And if you fold it like it's going to the bottom here, right?
Yeah. Well,
so fancy. What your dad ordered? Oh, you're ready for yeah, today. I think you're good. Yeah, but their kids are Canadian, but they get very home. Who? No, I have a few girls. There was school and I think but they just go back. So like, let's see, obviously, like, some songs or just
When you do it for English, you can
What was the first one?
Feel free to say it. I get one.
Especially because I trust. I thought, well, if they come up, we'll die playing. Yeah. I took like a volleyball game, like here, in the summer. It was okay. But, like, oh, I can recall that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
There's more thought for it. I'm so sorry.
Like maybe not for sure.
Before I say one guy, here, let's do what we need.
But when you get it, I really hard.
How that hurt?
I'll make some of those charts. But like it's right I still write it down too. And this everything is on. And then I feel like yeah.
No, I don't.
I mean, like, I could just. You know what? Me and I.
And you'll lose all your
So,
That's not how.
like, I could after what you did.
Yeah, because you're gonna no, it doesn't have. It's not on his cheeks. I mean, it's on. I need to grab Joseph's working.
Like,
Loose it up.
Literally something.
So I'm gonna like, no, you can't do that. Loose it up.
I know, like, you have to know if you can't do that. Like, you wrote
That helps, right? I got one.
easy.
Oh, I'm trying to put on fire.
Like, I wanted to keep watching.
I wanted to punch.
They have a trick.
You know, bro, I skateboard, my house full of.
Yeah. Yeah. You guys know what the word is? What is it? You're not looking for
I'll write it on the board on
Everyone knows tomorrow there's no extended flex. You all heard that?
Oh, actually.
Tomorrow there's no extended flex. We start at 9:05.
Oh, man.
I know.
Yeah, that's pretty fun.
I'm not thrilled either, so you know.
What's the activity?
It's to do with truth and reconciliation because
Are we in the walk or is it like?
no, it's not a walk. There's an activity.
So we're not gonna go outside?
No, it's not an outside thing. We have one of those in think in the spring, the red dress walk.
Oh, yeah, that one, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
How does next week?
Mountain Madness is next week. Club Stay is next week. I just want to have a normal week.
I just got sit there.
So they're gonna be like, I am at the water like 2 days straight.
Yeah. Yeah.
My dad's name is Wilbur now. I remember you.
Usually come out bad as I just say it and lots of people all over. It's actually really funny.
Not even good.
Because last year.
No.
Because this guy-
I was laughing so hard.
Yeah, that's true. You can't lose to ties.
It's definitely Jim.
You like size.
Like I remember last year, like when my teacher he actually did like wanted to go to after that class and said, no, I said my hair was. Yeah, when he was working so hard, like what are you working us to like? He wanted us to run like Terry was like Terry Fox run. Yeah, and she like she was trying to yeah, but like check song. Then you put on your head and go like no, I just got here this hard. That's scared.
I didn't know anything.
It's like,
Yes.
Yeah, I'll just finish it. No, this.
Yeah.